Have you ever felt the ground beneath your feet shake unexpectedly? Or perhaps you've heard the stories of massive waves crashing against the shore, leaving destruction in their wake. Earthquakes and tsunamis are two of nature's most powerful forces. They can seem terrifying, and the idea of them happening can leave us with so many questions. What causes them? How do we prepare for them? And why do they occur in the first place? These are all questions that many of us have, especially as we grow older and want to make sure we're well prepared for the world around us. Understanding the natural world can give us peace of mind. And today, we're going to take a closer look at the secret behind earthquakes and tsunamis. It might sound a bit like science fiction, but trust me, it's much simpler than that. You see, we live on a planet that is constantly shifting, even though we might not always notice it. The Earth's surface isn't a solid piece. It's actually made up of pieces called tectonic plates. These plates are like enormous puzzle pieces that fit together to form the Earth's outer shell. They cover the entire planet, and they're constantly moving, albeit very slowly. Imagine them like giant ships floating on a sea of molten rock deep beneath the Earth's surface. Now, you might be wondering, what does this have to do with earthquakes and tsunamis? Well, these tectonic plates are responsible for some of the most powerful events we see in nature, like earthquakes and tsunamis. Let's start by talking about earthquakes, the first step in our exploration of these natural wonders. An earthquake happens when there's a sudden release of energy beneath the Earth's surface. This release of energy causes the ground to shake. It's like if you were holding a piece of string tightly in your hands, then suddenly let go. The string would snap back into place, and you'd feel that jolt. In the same way, when tectonic plates suddenly shift or collide with one another, energy is released in the form of seismic waves. These waves travel through the Earth, and when they reach the surface, we feel the shaking. It's this shaking that causes what we recognize as an earthquake. Think of it as two large pieces of rock rubbing against each other. Over time, pressure builds up between them. Eventually, the pressure becomes too much for the rocks to handle, and they snap, releasing all the energy that had been building up. This causes the ground to shake, and that's the earthquake we feel. But why does this happen in certain places? Well, tectonic plates are not evenly distributed across the Earth. They fit together like a giant jigsaw puzzle, and at the edges where these plates meet, they're in constant motion. These areas, called plate boundaries, are where most earthquakes occur. Some plates are moving toward each other, while others are moving apart or sliding past each other. Where the plates meet, they often form faults, large fractures in the Earth's crust. When these faults slip or move, we get an earthquake. So, when you hear about earthquakes happening in places like Japan, California, or Chile, it's because those regions lie along these plate boundaries. And while we can't always predict exactly when or where an earthquake will happen, scientists have figured out some patterns. They study the history of earthquakes in certain areas and monitor the movements of tectonic plates to give us some idea of where earthquakes are more likely to strike. Now, let's talk about tsunamis, which are closely related to earthquakes, but in a very dramatic way. Tsunamis, or harbor waves, are giant waves that can flood coastlines, causing extensive damage. But these waves don't just appear out of nowhere. They usually start with an underwater earthquake. Here's how it works. When an earthquake happens beneath the ocean floor, it can cause the ocean floor to suddenly rise or fall. This sudden movement pushes large amounts of water up into the air, creating waves. These waves start out small in deep water, but as they approach the shore and the ocean becomes shallower, the waves get much larger, sometimes towering over the coastline. It's as if you've dropped a pebble into a pond, but instead of just a small ripple, it sends out huge waves that grow as they move toward the shore. Tsunamis are extremely dangerous because of the power and size of these waves. They can travel across entire oceans, sometimes covering thousands of miles, and they can strike with little warning. It's important to understand that tsunamis aren't just a one-wave event. The first wave might be followed by several others, and these waves can continue for hours, causing widespread flooding and destruction. Now that we've covered the basics of earthquakes and tsunamis, it's clear that both of these natural disasters are linked to the powerful movements of the Earth's tectonic plates. As we move forward in this video, we'll dive deeper into the science behind these events, how they form, and most importantly, what we can do to protect ourselves and our loved ones. Stay with me, and together, we'll uncover more about the forces that shape our planet. Now that we have a basic understanding of what earthquakes and tsunamis are, let's explore the next layer of this fascinating topic: how we can predict these events and, most importantly, how to stay safe during them. You might be wondering, if earthquakes and tsunamis are caused by something as massive as shifting tectonic plates, can we predict when and where they will strike? The short answer is, not exactly. While we've made great strides in understanding these events, predicting the exact moment or location of an earthquake is still very challenging. Scientists around the world, however, are working tirelessly to improve early warning systems that could help save lives. When it comes to earthquakes, the challenge lies in the fact that they happen so suddenly. Unlike weather events, which can be monitored for patterns and forecasts, earthquakes are nearly impossible to predict in the way we can predict a storm or a heat wave. That's because they're caused by sudden shifts or movements in the Earth's crust, and while scientists can monitor the buildup of stress in certain regions, there's no way to know exactly when it will be released. However, scientists have been able to identify certain hotspots where earthquakes are more likely to occur. These are often areas near plate boundaries, where the tectonic plates are in constant motion. For example, Japan, which lies along the Pacific Ring of Fire, an area known for its seismic activity, has one of the most advanced earthquake monitoring systems in the world. By placing seismographs across the country, Japan can detect even the smallest tremors and issue warnings seconds before a major earthquake hits. While this may not seem like much time, those precious seconds can be the difference between life and death. In some cases, early warning systems can also trigger automatic safety measures, like stopping trains, shutting down gas lines, or opening emergency shelters. But what about tsunamis? Unlike earthquakes, tsunamis can often be predicted, especially if they're triggered by an underwater earthquake. When a significant seismic event occurs under the ocean, scientists can monitor the movement of the ocean floor and calculate the likelihood of a tsunami. If the earthquake was large enough and occurred near the coast, tsunami warning systems are activated. These systems send out alerts to coastal regions, giving them time to evacuate before the waves arrive. Tsunami warning systems work by monitoring the sea level in real time. When an earthquake happens, instruments known as tsunami buoys, placed in the ocean, can measure the rise and fall of the sea caused by the event. If a major disturbance is detected, an alert is sent to tsunami centers, which then issue warnings to coastal areas. Thanks to these systems, some regions have been able to evacuate just in time, avoiding the worst of the damage. But even with all this advanced technology, the best way to stay safe during an earthquake or tsunami is to be prepared. This is something that all of us, regardless of age, can work on together. Let's talk about some simple, yet effective ways to protect yourself and your family if you find yourself in an area at risk for these natural disasters. The first and most important thing to remember is to have an emergency plan in place. This plan should include clear instructions on how to evacuate your home, where to meet up with family members, and what supplies you need to have on hand. In the case of an earthquake, the best advice is to drop, cover, and hold on. If you're inside when the shaking starts, drop to the ground, take cover under a sturdy piece of furniture, and hold on until the shaking stops. This will protect you from falling debris and help keep you safe. If you're outside, move to an open space away from buildings, trees, and power lines, as these can fall or cause injury. For tsunamis, the key is to know the warning signs. If you're near the coast and feel a strong earthquake, or if the sea suddenly recedes, that's a sign that a tsunami might be on the way. In such cases, it's important to move quickly to higher ground or inland, as tsunamis can arrive within minutes. Knowing the evacuation routes and having a go bag with essentials like water, snacks, a flashlight, and first aid supplies will make sure you're ready for anything. Another critical step is to educate yourself about the risks in your area. While we may not always have control over the natural events that take place, we do have control over how we prepare for them. Many areas, especially those located near active fault lines or coastal regions, will have resources available to help you understand the risks and prepare for potential disasters. Local governments and disaster relief organizations often offer free resources, from evacuation maps to community workshops on disaster preparedness. Getting involved and staying informed can make all the difference. By taking a proactive approach, you can reduce the fear and uncertainty that often come with natural disasters. Preparation isn't just about having the right supplies. It's about building confidence that you and your loved ones will know what to do when disaster strikes. So, while we may not have all the answers about exactly when an earthquake or tsunami will happen, the good news is that we can take steps to prepare ourselves and stay safe. The more we learn about these powerful forces, the more we understand how to protect ourselves from them. As we dive deeper into understanding the impact of earthquakes and tsunamis, we'll also discuss what happens after the event, the recovery process, the efforts to rebuild, and how we can support each other in the aftermath. Stay with me, and we'll continue to explore this important topic together as we continue our journey through the powerful forces of earthquakes and tsunamis. It's time to focus on the aftermath of these events, the recovery process, and how communities come together to rebuild. It's easy to be overwhelmed by the devastation that can follow a natural disaster, but there is also a great deal of hope and resilience in these situations. After an earthquake or tsunami hits, the immediate aftermath is often marked by chaos and destruction. Homes are damaged, lives are lost, and the community is left to pick up the pieces. But despite the heartbreak and the physical toll, there is something remarkable about how people come together in these times of crisis. Whether it's neighbors helping each other clear debris or volunteers from all over the world arriving to offer assistance, the human spirit shines through even in the darkest moments. One of the first things that happens after a disaster is the mobilization of emergency response teams. These teams are made up of firefighters, paramedics, engineers, and other professionals who rush to the affected areas to search for survivors, provide medical aid, and begin restoring basic services like water and electricity. Their work is often grueling, as they navigate damaged buildings and dangerous conditions, but their efforts save lives and help stabilize the situation. For communities impacted by earthquakes and tsunamis, the recovery process can take months, even years. Rebuilding infrastructure, such as roads, hospitals, schools, and homes, is a monumental task that requires collaboration between local authorities, national governments, and international aid organizations. It's a long and challenging journey, but the resilience of the affected communities is something to behold. Through it all, people support each other, share resources, and rebuild their lives, piece by piece. As much as recovery efforts focus on physical rebuilding, there is also an emotional and psychological aspect to the process. Survivors often face trauma, grief, and anxiety as they cope with the loss of loved ones or the destruction of their homes. In many cases, mental health professionals and counselors are brought in to provide support, helping people process their emotions and begin to heal. While the scars of an earthquake or tsunami may never fully fade, the strength and determination of the people who live through it can help them find hope for the future. This resilience is something we can all take inspiration from, especially as we consider how to prepare ourselves for a potential disaster. No matter where you live, it's important to have an understanding of the risks and the steps you can take to protect yourself. Remember, preparation isn't just about having a plan in place. It's about cultivating a mindset that helps you stay calm, collected, and ready to act if the unexpected happens. When it comes to preparing for earthquakes and tsunamis, there are a few key things to remember. First, always stay informed. Keep an eye on any local warnings or advisories, especially if you live in a region prone to earthquakes or near the coast. This means paying attention to weather reports, monitoring seismic activity in your area, and staying connected to reliable sources of information, whether it's through community groups, government websites, or news outlets. The more you know, the better prepared you'll be if disaster strikes. Second, make sure your home is earthquake and tsunami ready. For earthquakes, this includes securing heavy furniture, fastening bookshelves to the wall, and making sure your home has strong structural integrity. For tsunamis, it's vital to know the evacuation routes and the locations of safe areas on higher ground. In some cases, you may need to retrofit your home or take additional precautions to minimize the damage from a tsunami or earthquake. Finally, be proactive about creating an emergency kit. Include basic items like water, non-perishable food, flashlights, batteries, a first aid kit, and important documents. For those who live in coastal areas, consider having a go bag that includes additional supplies, such as a whistle, a portable charger for your phone, and a blanket for warmth. Having these things ready ahead of time can save precious minutes when you need to act quickly. I know these steps may feel overwhelming at times, but remember, preparation is one of the most powerful tools you have. It's about taking small, manageable steps that can help ensure your safety when an earthquake or tsunami occurs. And even if you never experience one of these events, the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're prepared can make all the difference. As we wrap up, let's take a moment to reflect on the bigger picture. Earthquakes and tsunamis are natural forces that we can't control, but they also remind us of the power and beauty of the earth itself. The ground we walk on, the oceans we live by, and the shifting plates beneath us all contribute to the world we know. Understanding these forces gives us the knowledge we need to protect ourselves, while also instilling a sense of awe and respect for the planet that sustains us. Remember, while we can't predict when these events will occur, we can choose to be prepared. Small actions today can make a huge difference tomorrow. Stay informed, stay safe, and stay resilient. Thank you for watching, and if you found this video helpful, please leave a comment below to share your thoughts or experiences. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content on how to live a safer, more prepared life. Here's to living your best life, no matter what comes your way. Stay strong and take care.